Good evening, good morning, dear Dhamma friends and Bhante. Welcome back to our Dhammapada session with Bhante Pemaratana. Gentle reminder to everyone, please mute your microphone if you haven't done so to keep the session clear and peaceful for everyone. And now, without further delay, let us now invite Bhante Pemaratana to begin the session. Welcome, Bhante.
Good evening and good morning to everyone. I deeply appreciate, Sister Natasha and the Mahakaruna Buddhist Society for organizing this, and welcome all to our fifth class on the Dhammapada studies. I'm glad that you all make sure that, Thursday evening is the time we can get together and learn these very important teachings of the Buddha. And these are the verses, the gathas, the poems uttered by the Buddha in different occasions, and they can give such good guidance and advice and wisdom to our life. So today we will be familiar with one verse. Yeah, this time we need permission to share the screen. Yes, and so we have been learning different verses so far. I just select, randomly, some verse, because we have 420 plus, I think 426 verses in this text. So much to learn, but I just, select some verses that I think may be helpful to us. So we have been learning different verses so far. Let me share the screen. Thank you, sister. So this is the verse I selected for today's discussion. It is verse number 163 verse. And let me start with, paying homage to the Buddha. So let us all together take this moment to pay our deep gratitude, pay our deep respect to the Buddha with the palms together, and we will recite salutation to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, let me now chant this verse before we study this particular verse. Sukkarāni asādhūni attano ahitāni yang ve hitañca sādhuñca tang ve paramadukkaraṃ. Easy are to do things that are bad and harmful to oneself, but exceedingly difficult to do are the things that are good and beneficial. Let us take a time to reflect on this meaning of this verse. easy to do things that are bad and harmful to oneself, and then but exceedingly difficult to do are things that are good and beneficial to us. There's an interesting paradox, right? And because what this verse is saying us that whatever harmful, whatever bad, whatever not beneficial to us, those things are very easy to do. We don't have to make much effort. It's very easy to do. But whatever things that are truly beneficial to us, that are truly helpful to us, that truly good to us, is difficult to do. And Buddha used the term exceedingly difficult to do. I would like you to invite to reflect your own life. How you experience this. How you experience this, that it is quite easy for you to do things that are not very useful, not very beneficial, uh, and and at the same time, have you found difficulty in doing things that are really beneficial to you? And can you agree with this meaning? I mean, I can think about like something like, okay, we can easily go for a maybe go for a party, which is not very bad, but sometimes things that we do there can be bad. Maybe we can easily go for a drink or use intoxicants, and we don't have to make effort for that. But and we can easily go for such a thing, and then maybe it's really difficult for us to go for maybe Dhamma talk or go for a retreat or something like that. That will be one example, but there can be many other such examples too. So this is something we should reflect, and this and what, and also let's try to understand why it is difficult for us to do things that are useful and beneficial to us. I mean, by right, I mean, we all look for beneficial things, right? So by right, we should be able to like easily do things that are beneficial to us, that are useful to us, and but why this is the case? That where we don't have to make an effort to do things that are not necessarily useful to us, but it requires some effort for us to do something good to us. Why that is the case? Why we find it so easy to do things that are not spiritual, not helpful. So before we discuss that, I would like to help you to be familiar with few Pali terms. So in this verse, we find interesting terms here. We can find asādhūni, and then we can find ahitāni, and then we find these different terms. So I mean, I would just like you to be familiar with this term. Of course, this is the term that you're all familiar with, sadhu. Sadhu has the meaning of good and excellent and even approval, and also in sometime it also has a meaning of thank you. I think particularly in Malaysia, I used this term to mean thank you. But general etymologically, it means good and excellent. Or you can approve something. That is why we say sadhu at the end of any sessions. Um, and but what the term we have here is asādhu or asādhūni. That means we know that the letter A can mean the opposite of the word. So here, what we mean by asādhu is bad. So these are the two terms, and then we see hita. Hita means beneficial, and but the term we have both term here. Ahita it similarly means unbeneficial. So hita is beneficial, ahita means unbeneficial. And then we have another important term, maybe this maybe may be familiar with, parama, exceedingly, or sometimes we also use that term to mean ultimate, parama, exceedingly and ultimate, parama. And you may remember that there's another important verse in Dhammapada where we say, Nibbānaṃ paramang sukham. Nibbana is the paramasukha. Sukha is the happiness, right? So paramasukha means ultimate happiness. Nibbānaṃ paramang sukha. I think now you know the meaning of that term.
Kiwi.
Yeah. Okay, and then let's try to go into the meaning. And I think maybe when we reflect, why it is difficult for us to do things that are truly beneficial to us, truly helpful to us in terms of our health, in terms of our inner peace, in terms of our spiritual growth, why these things are real difficult to us. One reason we can come up with is that for a long time, we have been feeding our defilements. For a long time, we have been feeding our. So that could be one reason that because we have been feeding our defilements for a long time, and even Buddha has said some other suttas, like we have been feeding our ignorance and we have been feeding our defilements for a long time. Because we have been feeding these defilements for a long time, it has become the norm. It has become what we call default mode. So our default mode has become is these defilements, presence of the defilements, and particularly the ignorance. And so because we have been feeding these defilements, like, for example, what we mean by defilements, if we give example like greed or anger, pride, arrogance, jealousy, all these, the states of the mind, and we have habit of entertaining or like keeping those, states in our mind quite long. For example, if we get angry due to some little irritable thing, we tend to feed that anger. We tend to keep that anger for a long time. And we have become angry thousands or millions times in our life. And then, so we have been actually feeding that, that state of the mind for a long time. And same thing with greed. If it develops some, feeling of wanting or desire or liking about something, and then and most of the time we mentally fantasize about it. We keep thinking about it. And let it, be there for a long time. And we have done so for many things for many, 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 many times. So same thing with pride, arrogance, and even jealousy. And so we have been feeding those defilements for many millions of times in this lifetime. But according to the Buddhist understanding, and we have been doing this even in our previous lives too. So because we have been feeding these defilements for a long time, and many, many times, now they have become quite strong. So therefore, they are quite strong in us. And therefore, most of the time, they govern us. Those defilements, defilements that we have fed, the strong in us, govern us, even from the unconscious level. So therefore, we don't have to make an effort to get angry. And we need to, put an effort to feel jealousy. It becomes, quite automatic. Comes to our mind quite automatic, and it happens in a very unconscious level. So that is one reason that it's easy for us to, do things that are unwholesome, which ultimately unbeneficial. But we don't see the consequences of that state right away, and then but when we just do it because of our strong habits. So we are basically driven by craving and ignorance, and this is the teachings of the Buddha, and this is the condition of all of us. Until we are growing, we are getting some advancement in our spiritual path, some breakthrough about our own existence. And this is the common nature of every being. We have to accept it, and then we don't have to blame anyone for that. But this is the ordinary normal condition, and we are basically driven by craving and then ignorance, and doesn't mean that that's the only thing we are driven by. We have experience in our own life. At times we can overcome our craving. We can be driven by our generosity. At times we can be driven by our loving kindness, our deep empathy, and we can be driven by some insight, some deep understanding, and we can let go of things, at times. So we're not completely, driven by craving and ignorance. At times we can overcome and rise above them, but averagely, on most of the time, we are driven by this craving and ignorance until we, attain some spiritual development. So that's why Buddha said that in the Rattapala Sutta, atitho loko tanha daso. The worldlings, the ordinary people, are, sorry, I think I have mistake. Ordinary people are unsatisfied and slaves to the craving, slaves to the craving, and that is the common nature and reality. Most of the people are slaves to the craving, and that is why we have been driven to do things that are temporarily pleasant, temporarily gratifying, but that are not beneficial in long run. So, I mean, you can think about your own, experience, and I can think about your own mind experience. How easy for me to, you know, to feel. To defilements. I don't have to like make an effort. So I just remember the simile of a garden. The simile, the weeds versus plants. We know that if you have a garden, you don't have to make an effort to grow weeds. Weeds grow automatically. Weeds grow fast, and then plants takes an effort, and that is so. And this can be a good simile. I mean, why we call some plants weeds? Some can bring up an argument. Of course, the whole concept of weeds and plants is our distinction. Yeah, definitely is how we divide some plants as weeds, some plants as plants. Or yeah, but I think the one definition of weeds is actually the weeds do not. Weeds may not be very beneficial. I mean, maybe weeds may not produce any fruit for other beings. Weeds may not produce like flowers or maybe maybe beneficial things for others. Most of the plants will produce something that are beneficial to the vast majority of other beings, to birds, to other beings and people. The weeds may produce things that will progenate. I mean, that will promote its own species, but it may not necessarily be that helpful to others. But anyway, so the weeds are easy to grow, and we don't have to make an effort, particularly when you are making a garden. But plants requires effort and care, and that's exactly how our mind works. And then our defilement doesn't need an effort. It has. We have already fed them for quite a long time, and therefore it is easy for us to experience those defilements. And if you don't pay attention, they will grow. If you don't pay attention, our jealousy can grow. If you don't pay attention, our pride, our ego can grow. If you don't pay attention, our anger and greed can grow, and it automatically growing. But if you want to develop generosity, if you want to develop loving kindness and humility, then we need some kind of effort. And that is why we have this term bhavana, the Buddhist term bhavana, which means cultivation. And the bhavana is cultivation. So there's cultivating the wholesome qualities, cultivating our understanding and wisdom and insight. So cultivation, the term bhavana has this meaning of putting an effort and changing the ordinary way of being, the changing the normal flow of the things. The very term has that sense of doing cultivating. So this is the reason that it is easy for us to do bad things is that they are in our defilements are like weeds. They are quite strong already in us. So we are habitually driven for pleasurable experiences. And then because they are fleeting, but habitually we are driven for pleasurable experiences, but and we don't sometimes see whether that pleasurable experience has a benefit, is good for our physical and mental health, and we are kind of blinded with that. So what you call ignorance and blindness is that, and then that leads to delusion. That means wrong understanding. The part of the delusion that we all have is a lack of clarity on what is truly beneficial and what is not beneficial. And because, so that's that as human beings, it is so interesting that sometimes we are not clear what is truly beneficial to us and what is not really beneficial to us. And that confusion is also the part of our delusion or moha, not really knowing what is really beneficial and not beneficial. And because and that comes to us because of our basic blindness to truly how our life works. So therefore, and we usually think that immediate gratification is beneficial to us, and of course, immediate gratification has some value to it, but when we but not all immediate gratifications are beneficial to us. But that is how we think. So, and as a result, we like for quick results. So we look for immediate gratification, and we know we need a quick gratification, quick pleasure. Sometimes we don't have patience and endurance until our good practice yields some result. And this is common nature that we all have, right? So, and looking for immediate gratification, and most of the time, immediate gratification may not be that useful or beneficial. So therefore, we tend to mistake the unbeneficial for the beneficial, and thus continue to create suffering. So that is sometimes that is why it's easy for us to do bad things or unbeneficial things because of our mistake. How it's more like a perversions that we mistake unbeneficial things to be beneficial. For example, I think the one good example, these will be some examples that, we may take taste, as a taste, like taste versus health. Of course, I'm not encouraging you to not to enjoy food, but when it comes to health and good taste, and we are what we have to choose. It will be easier for us to just select a delicious or the taste and not the health, right? But in order to choose health that is beneficial and to control some of the food that are very, very, very delicious but not really healthy and good, and we need some effort. So sometimes we confuse or we mix unbeneficial to beneficial. And for example, comfort and hard work. This will be another thing. And we may like to be comfortable. We like to, not to do hard work. Just relax. Just be lazy. And we will choose that. but is it beneficial? And at the same time, entertainment versus study, like indulgence or entertainment, and then maybe some deeper study, deeper involvement of our mental capacities, and then of course gratification versus growth. So we know that among these two, these two things, what we what we tend to do and what we like to do, or what we are prone to do. So now we know that whatever beneficial things to us require some effort. The reason is that we have been cultivating, we have been automatically growing and cultivating our defilements for quite a long time. And so the one reason that we find in the Buddhist teaching, that the reason that we are in samsara is because we keep feeding our ignorance and defilements. And samsara is the cycle of death and birth, and cycle of suffering. Actually, the same cycle of suffering. We keep repeating the same cycle of suffering in this life, and in long term, we are also repeating the same cycle of suffering again and again, and we simply revisit the same experience of suffering again and again, because we keep feeding our ignorance and defilements. And that is where we can find the teachings of the Buddha as a guidance for us to understand this blindness that we are in, and this habitual, treadmill that we are, keep, going, and then bring awareness to that, that habitual journey, bring awareness to that blindness, and then make an effort to go beyond this, cycle of, suffering. And so here I have an image, and this is from the Tibetan Wheel of Life image. And so this wheel, this is the part of the wheel. This is the core of the wheel. You may have seen the larger wheel, where we find the explanation. We find all the 12 links of the dependent origination in the outer ring of this wheel. And then we have 6 realms in the middle, part of the wheel, and then this is right at the core. And I would like to invite in, if someone recognizes the 3 animals in this middle, and anyone would like to comment in, do you recognize the 3 animals in the middle?
Bhante, your slide is not moving.
Oh, really? You mean you didn't see my slides all the way?
Yeah, you are still on the
Your slide is still on the first page of the Dhammapada Verse.
Oh, really? Thank you for letting me know. I have been wise the case. Let me try again. I thought you have been seeing all of my slides.
Okay now.
Can you see it now? Is it moving now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, maybe I thought you are seeing my slides. Okay, never mind. I was just showing you the garden, and these are the dualities that we have in our life. We tend to do one thing which is easy, which is not necessarily beneficial but easy, like a taste versus health, comfort versus hard work, entertainment versus study, and gratification versus growth. And this is the image that I showed you. We are in samsara. And does anyone take a moment to see it? And does anyone recognize the 3 animals in the middle of this wheel?
Snake, the pig, and cockroach. Correct?
The snake and the pig, and what is the other one?
Cockroach.
What is cockroach?
Chicken.
Oh, yeah, rooster. Yes. The snake, pig, and the rooster. Anyone knows the symbolic meaning of these three creatures? this is a very pictorial way of presentation of the, the core of our suffering. Yes.
Bhante, is it greed, hatred, delusion?
Wow, Ananda, excellent job. I'm so glad, thank you, Ananda, for sharing that. I'm so glad that you have learned those things. Yes.
Ananda,
exactly.
which is which?
Oh, yeah, maybe that may be next challenge. Yeah, which is which? Which animal represent greed?
I think
Maybe
the rooster.
we can start with anger. Which animal represent anger?
Snake.
Yes, yes, definitely. According to Tibetan, according to this, this art, that is true. Yeah, yeah. The rooster represent greed, and snake represent anger, and then pig represent delusion. So it shows right in the middle, right at the core, and this is what things keep moving, keep things, the suffering keeps, rotating and moving again and again. And so this shows, the reality of our samsaric life. I think, so that gives us an example. Therefore, the spiritual journey is seen as upstream journey or patisota. Can you see the new slide now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Patisota.
Yeah. So the spiritual journey is given by the Buddha as a patisota, as an upstream journey. And because we have to fight with our own defilements to go beyond this this cycle, go beyond this, the repeated cycle. And we have to overcome the resistance from our old habit. Whenever you start a spiritual practice, there's a big resistance from our own old habits, from our defilements. And spiritual practices requires us to go beyond our comfort zones. And that is why it is seen as upstream journey, and not an easy journey, but upstream journey. So that is why it is like, it will be easy for us to give up our spiritual practices, just live a normal life, just keep indulging things, just live our life without having much concern or care for others, and just be egoistic, self-indulgence. It will be much easier. Easier means actually not that easy too, but it doesn't require any internal effort. But it is not really going to be beneficial to ourselves and to anyone else around us. And we, although we think that living such a carefree life, living such a life that is that only concerned about our pleasure is good, but ultimately we are also not getting any satisfaction. Instead, we are repeating the same cycle of suffering again and again. So outwardly, the go with the flow, so to speak, may sound comfortable, or maybe sometimes even beneficial, but if you think deeply, it is not. So that is why the spiritual journey is seen as going against the current. But actually, here we need to understand that what we mean by going against the current does not necessarily mean going against the nature. Actually, because in a spiritual life, we becoming in tune with nature. And what is really happening here, that actually, in addition to nature, there are so many habitual patterns that have been, built in our mind for many, many long time. So our habitual patterns have become the kind of nature. The habitual patterns have become our default mode, which is not really natural in that sense. So therefore, the upstream journey means that we have to go upstream against our own habitual patterns. And that is basically the resistance coming from our old habits. But ultimately, once you overcome that, the resistance from the habits, the spiritual life become like being in tune with nature. It's not really against the nature, but against our own habitual patterns mainly. So while we have this tendency to be driven by our defilements, Buddha talked about an inner capacity that we all have to go beyond our defilements. The term you are familiar with this term called virya. The virya is an important capacity that Buddha talked about. While we are victim most of the time, and even Buddha said that we are slaves to our craving. That may be the common nature of vast majority of the people. But while we are most of the time victims and slaves to our defilements, but at the same time there lies a hidden inner potential in each and every one of us called virya, the inner capacity to go beyond our defilements. And we can translate this virya into different terms like willpower, vigor, strength, ability to go beyond external pull and internal push, and also exertion. Internal pull and external push. What we mean by external pull, that means our environment. Our environment may drag in to do certain things. Maybe there can be an environment that almost like inviting us to, do some, indulgence. There can be external environment that may, pull us to do some, stealing or taking advantage of other people. There can be so many external environment that kind of inviting us to like supporting or conducive for us to do negative things. But while our external environment is giving all this condition for us to do bad things, if we have the ability not to do it and restrain yourself, and that is virya. An internal push is the push coming from the defilements, coming from our habitual patterns, and the ability to go beyond them is what we call virya, an exertion. This is what we need to pay our attention, and this Dhammapada verse is showing us that in our normal way of life, it is easy for us to go into the things that are bad, unbeneficial. But whenever we find it is difficult for us to get rid of them, it is difficult for us to do a good, useful, beneficial things, that coming from the samsara, coming from old habits. So whenever you find it is difficult for us to to follow precepts, it is difficult for you to commit to a meditation. Whenever you find it's difficult for you to do any act of generosity, and it's difficult for you to be listening and kind and be patient with others. And remember that that is the pull, that is the pull coming from this samsara. And if you can overcome that, if you can notice and overcome that, you're not only doing that good thing, but you're also overcoming the general bond, general the attachment that you have to samsara. So that exercising of this inner capacity is called vayama, samma vayama. In Noble Eightfold Path, we have number sixth item of the Noble Eightfold Path is samma vayama, right effort, that is exercising this inner capacity to go beyond defilements. So, and the Buddha talks about such 5 inner capacity that we all have: saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, and panya. And these are the internal faculties that we all have. Interesting thing about this internal, these 5 indriyas, what Buddha called indriyas, and they are inner capacities that we all have. But these capacities can be enhanced, can be cultivated, and that should be our spiritual, goal. Saddha is a capacity, we all have it at some level. Different people have different level of saddha. Virya, we have some effort, but it's different level. Mindfulness, or sati, we all have it, but in different levels. Samadhi, we all have it. We can focus our mind to some level, compose and settle down our mind. But different people have different capacity. Same with panya. So the only thing that we can truly grow in our life are these 5 faculties, these 5 indriyas. In our life, we keep growing old. Actually, we keep growing old. We are keeping And when we are growing old, nothing is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. We are getting feeble and weaker and weaker and weaker physically. But actually, Buddha said that there are things that we can really make strong and grow. The true, everything else in our life will be decay gradually. But the true growing is actually these capacities. It doesn't matter, the age. We can actually cultivate these 5 capacities, 5 indriyas, and we can enhance the capacity of these indriyas. So therefore, I think the more we grow old in our age, the more we should pay attention to develop these 5 indriyas. So these are the lessons that we can learn from this Dhammapada verse. And whenever I find, whenever I encounter I have some kind of difficulty to do something, maybe I find it's difficult to, do some program. I mean, difficult to help someone. Whenever I find such a difficulty, such a resistance from our mind, and I try to use it as a moment to reflect how the samsara is pulling me back and pulling me back. And am I going with that flow, or can I do some little bit more effort and do it? And so that can be really helpful. So I would like you to I like to invite you to take a moment to to reflect what is difficult for you to do. What do you find the most difficult thing to do, and some beneficial thing? There can be so many things that are difficult, but what that it's beneficial, but it's very difficult to do. And take a moment and think about that. And what is difficult for you to start? And what is difficult for you to continue? What good practice that's difficult for you to continue? And this may be good questions that we can pay attention to. So with that, I will stop my presentation here, and then I'd like to open the floor for our discussion. Okay, I invite you to ask your question if you have any open, or maybe you can even write in the chat box.
Bhante, my
Yes.
answer to all the 3 questions is the same answer. That is
Okay.
meditation. It is a
Okay.
challenge.
What you find most difficult to do is meditation. What you find most difficult things to start is meditation. What you find most difficult thing to continue is meditation. It is always challenging and difficult. It's an upstream journey. But one thing, what we can do to make it easy, and in addition to use our virya, use our inner strength and willpower to go beyond that, distraction and laziness. In addition to that, what we can do is to create a conducive environment. And even when Buddha talk about a noble eightfold path, those sitting meditation, what we call this, what we do in sitting down and calming our mind and developing insight, and that is only the part of this whole practice. And that's why Buddha gave a whole, larger program, more comprehensive program, because we need to create the supporting environment for us to have a good meditation. And we need to do so many other things before we meditate, in order to make our meditation successful. And then we can also even think about rearranging our physical environment, and also do things in the day that may support our meditation. So doing some arrangement of the physical environment, at least have less distraction. We cannot live in the world with no distraction, but less distractions. but then learn techniques to overcome distractions. So distraction are distraction as long as we do not know how to deal with them. Once you know the techniques, they will not be distraction anymore. So we need to learn those techniques. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions anyone like to ask from our discussion today? Okay, I find few questions in the chat box, so please feel to ask openly, unmuting your microphone, or let me now go to these, questions in the chat. How do we analyze from Buddhist perspective when in some occasions that the shortest effort is more beneficial than the longest effort? Shortest effort is more beneficial than longest effort. Brother Kelvin, can you explain a little bit?
Bhante, your teaching saying that sometimes short effort is negative, right? And then sometimes long effort, provides more positive thing. But I was thinking of the reverse, because in some occasions,
Did they say that? No, I think maybe what I say that maybe shortest gratification may not be beneficial.
Yeah.
I didn't say it's effort.
No, I mean, from the Dhammapada verse, I read it as like, if you take your time to do things, it's better than you like take shortcuts and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can get that kind of meaning, but mainly what Dhammapada is saying that it doesn't require any effort for us to do things that are harmful to us. And anything that is beneficial to us requires an effort. I think that is how we should understand this verse. It requires an effort for us to do anything beneficial to us. It does not necessarily require much effort for us to do unbeneficial, harmful thing to ourselves. But I think maybe there's a secondary meaning, because sometimes the reason that if we find it difficult to do something beneficial to us is that because when we do some effort and even like sacrificing our immediate gratification, we don't see an immediate result, and then we will go back to our old habit. So maybe in that case, we may have to have some kind of patience to see the result and keep continuing it until we have to have endurance and patience. Is that clear, or are you asking about something else?
Yeah, I think the key point here is to have kanti in things that we do. So patience is the key to most of the things, so that in sometimes when we are expecting something but it doesn't appear, so we need to have patience to keep on doing the good things for that thing to mature and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But remember, we discussed I think last week, right? We discussed that the theory of the karma. Every karma requires a period of maturity, period of gestation before it give fruits. So we need to have a patience until that time. Okay, thank you. And let's say we have other question. How do we resolve the issue to choose doing things which are good and beneficial to one person, but at the same time may be bad and harmful to someone else? For example, one thing may be good for parents, but not good for a spouse. Okay, this is a real challenge. But here, maybe the point we need to ask that what we mean by good. Of course, when you think about a material good, our normal, life, a material good, there can be things that are beneficial to, our, maybe to oneself and not beneficial to others. But when it comes to, a spiritual level, And it is hard for us to think about something that's only beneficial to oneself and not beneficial to others. Maybe when it comes to our material world, in our maybe the some help like a material help, then of course we can have that distinction. But I think when it comes to a spiritual thing, like being um, mm, like for example, being committed to our precepts, is it harmful to others? I don't think so. And is it is beneficial to oneself, is beneficial to others? Being generous is beneficial to others and beneficial to ourselves. So I think maybe this issue comes not in the spiritual realm, but maybe our other worldly realm. But I think that is a real issue that in our own life, how to resolve the issue of choosing doing things that is beneficial to beneficial to one person but not beneficial to others. That's a good question. And in our life, maybe we had yeah, the best course of action will be to try to find a way to help everyone. But some, of course, practically we may have to choose. Maybe we may have to choose. But make sure that you don't harm anyone else. It is okay not to help, but harming is bad. Okay. Let's go to the next one. You mentioned that our spiritual practice is going upstream, yet spiritual life is going in tune with nature. Having anger and craving is a human nature, so overcoming it going against nature. Yes, Mandy, and that's an interesting issue. I think, yes, craving and anger is a human nature, but that is ordinary human nature. So then here we have to think about two layers of human nature. I think that is why I talked earlier that there are different layers. So the craving and anger is human nature, but is that all? And there are so many other things in our human nature. And as human, we are also empathetic. We also have, even we are compassionate. We have mirror neurons. If you think about the brains, and I think as humans, especially we have mirror neurons that we can feel the suffering of others. We can mirror the emotion of others. So that is also human nature. Compassion is human nature. And Buddha would say that even those 5 indriyas are inherent, capacities in human nature. So human nature is complex. It has both, let's say, wholesome and unwholesome tendencies. And yes, definitely, anger and craving is human nature, but that's the nature because we have fed those things quite often, and it's become like our habitual patterns. And because it's a habitual patterns, it has become the norm. But underneath that, we have more, pure nature, so to speak, more other capacities. It is. We can think about when Buddha said that we have these 3 main motives in our life: greed, hatred, and delusion. The 3 animals we see. But the Buddha talked about 6 roots of our behavior. Greed, hatred, and delusion is one set. But at the same time, he said that equally present in us are the non-greed or generosity, non-hatred, that means loving kindness, and non-delusion, that is wisdom. So the generosity or attitude of letting go and loving kindness and wisdom are equally present in us. So which one we want to feed? And that's the question we need to ask. So it's going against the unwholesome tendencies, going against the habitual patterns, not necessarily nature. Maybe you can say nature, but that's not the only nature in human mind. Okay. Any other question? Let me see. What's the Yeah. Okay, thank you. There's a request to share the second slide of the. Okay. We have a few more minutes if anyone has any other questions. We have a few more minutes for one more, maybe one or two more questions. Okay, we have one. Okay, there's a comment here in the chat box. When there's unwholesome thought arising, I find it useful to say, I see you, Mara. And it is said that the ordinary beings, learners, shouldn't feel discouraged no matter how many times Mara appears. Mara appears to Arahants as well. The critical is sati, mindfulness, see Mara and transform it. Is my understanding correct? Yes, definitely this is correct. And so the Mara is the personification maybe of the whole force of defilements. And you can say, oh, I see you, Mara, or maybe I see you, defilements. And that's a very good technique, definitely, very good technique. And of course, I think that as long as, we see them and they cannot really overwhelm us, the key point is to recognize them and see them. And our defilements can be in full force when we are not looking at them. So therefore, looking at them, recognizing them, and noticing them is the key. And then, of course, there are other things we need to do to overcome them, but that's the key. That's very good technique. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I really appreciate your effort to join today for our class. We have one more class next week. That will be our last class of this series. And let's meet next Thursday too. And deeply appreciate all of your participation, questions, and active listening. I hope that you remember this verse, Sukkarāni, asādhūni, is to do unwholesome things. And then a young way, hitañca, sādhuñca, if something is beneficial and useful and good, tangve paramadukkaraṃ, and it is extremely difficult. You Buddha use the term parama, extremely difficult. Remember that that's normal. That's normal. The challenge in our life is to exercise our virya to go beyond this normal, this habitual pattern. So let's make a determination. We are so fortunate. We have the teachings of the Buddha as our strength. We have the support of the Dhamma and support of the Sangha to make this journey. So let us, develop our saddha and then cultivate these good qualities, and then we can activate the wholesome part of us. Our ability to let go, our generosity, and our loving kindness and our wisdom. So with that, we will conclude our lesson today. Let us take a moment to be grateful for this opportunity, to deeply feel grateful to all the enlightened masters in the past who preserved these in Dhammapada for many generations. And these verses were memorized and passed into generations after generations. And then let us feel deeply grateful to all those generations of the teachers and enlightened masters in the past. And also deeply grateful to all whoever made this session possible for us. And with that, let us also share the merits with all of our departed relatives and all the living beings. By studying the Dhamma, by thinking about the Dhamma, we have generated, so much wholesomeness in our heart. Let us, invite our departed relatives and other beings to rejoice in this wholesome deed we just did. May they rejoice in this wholesome deed, and may they also generate merits for themselves, and may they be well, happy, and peaceful wherever they may be. Idang me ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idang me ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idang me ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Let us also share these merits with all the divine beings and all the celestial beings and any other living being who like to share this merit. May they do so. May all living beings share our merits and be well, happy, and peaceful. Ettavata ca amhi sambhataṃ puñña sampadaṃ sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca amhi sambhataṃ puñña sampadaṃ sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca amhi sambhataṃ puñña sampadaṃ sabbe sattha anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Okay, thank you everyone, and wish you all the blessings. Sukhi hotu to everyone. Sukhi hotu.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you,
Sukhi hotu.
Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Welcome, yeah, most welcome. Sukhi hotu.
Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Khan.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yes, Ananda, I'm so happy to see you are quite vibrant and energetic today. Last week you were a little weak with your, fever. Are you feeling okay today?
Yes.
Yes, I'm so glad. I'm so grateful. And thank you for your answer. Thank you for recognizing those three animals, what those animals represent. Yes. So, when you are sick, was it difficult to eat medicine?
No.
No,
I just-
okay.
I put it under my tongue, then drink water. No problem
good.
at all.
Okay, that's good, Yeah, so yeah, I'm so glad that you are not, you don't find it difficult to eat medicine. That's very good because it's going to be beneficial. What do you find as difficult? What good things that you find it difficult to do?
I have no idea.
Okay. What beneficial things that you find it difficult to do? Okay, let's say, I give you a book to read. Then I can also give you a cell phone to play a game. Which one is easy for you?
Both.
Okay, very smart boy. Yes. Yeah, but yeah, the difficult one is going to be useful and beneficial. Remember, this is a good lesson to learn, Ananda. Whatever easy to do is not going to be very beneficial. Whatever difficult to do is going to benefit us a lot. Okay, so just remember that. Whatever easy is not going to be that beneficial, that useful. Whatever difficult is going to be useful. So therefore, we should try to do difficult thing.
Okay, Bhante.
Yes. Do you have any other question for me today?
No.
Okay.
Maybe next Thursday.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you,
Bhante.
Anand. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Good to see you again. Yes.